Hi, I'm Matt Werry, and this is the Three Faces podcast.
I don't think I would have had this chat 10 years ago.
5 years ago.
Yeah,
well, I don't,
true.
honestly, to be honest with you, I don't think we would have had this chat last year.
It almost takes the first person to be, and I'm going to say brave because I think you do have to be brave. It almost takes that first person to open up, and before then other people start to open up and say, actually, do you know what, I can relate to that, or I felt like that. So yeah, certainly, definitely helps. Who is this guy?
Anyone saying Kev?
That was good for you. That was very good.
My guest this week is a man I've known for nearly, 20 years, I guess.
Unfortunately, yes.
Unfortunately, very nice. We've had experienced a lot together, but our own journeys with mental health, we haven't really talked about too much. So today we talk about those experiences for the first time. Kev Baker.
Pleasure to be here. Yeah, very interesting you said that because, now at our grand age of, I'm 33.
I'm 33 soon.
This depressing in itself.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.
But I and I don't mind admitting it, I don't think I would have had this chat with you 10 years ago.
5 years ago.
Yeah,
well, I don't
agreed.
honestly, to be honest with you, I don't think we would have had this chat last year because it wasn't. So to get into it, me and Kev have been friends for 20 years. We've been on holidays together. We're part of the same social group. There's 7 of us in the group, and we're all mates. All gone, been on each other's stag do's and all that sort of stuff. So
we're still including Keebs in this group of 7, are we?
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
Wow,
we
okay.
are. Yeah, just about. So yeah, we've as a group of lads, we don't particularly talk about that sort of stuff too often. So and it wasn't until I sort of was going through those experiences last year where I opened up to you guys, and that sort of opened up us talking about it a bit more, because then you came out and said,
it almost takes the first person and I'm going to say brave because I think you do have to be brave. It almost takes that first person to open up and speak through some of the emotions that you're feeling potentially at that point, or what you've been feeling for a certain amount of time. Before then other people start to open up and say, actually, do you know what, I can relate to that, or I felt like that. So yeah, certainly, definitely helps.
For me, it just got to that point where people get going, "Are you all right?" And they knew I weren't. Like my mum was a prime example. She was like, "Are you okay?" I was like, yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, but are you really okay? And it got to that point where I was like, no.
What had driven those questions?
She'd seen a change in me.
In what way? What?
She'd seen that I had basically become quite closed. I wasn't talking that much, and I'm really close to my mum and my dad's and stuff. So it is when I was sort of a bit more closed off, getting to those points of just not wanting to get. I don't know. It was just she could just see a change. Your mum knows.
Your mum knows you best, and she don't matter what age you are,
no.
She will still recognise.
Especially when you're a mummy's boy like me, she knows.
Yeah, you are a mummy's boy. Yeah.
So right, before we get too into it, so you just want to explain the concept. The reason for the podcast being called Three Faces, because in Japanese mythology they say you've got 3 faces. You've got the one that you show the world, the one you show your closest family and friends, and then your true self, the one you're the only person who sees your true self. That's face number 3. We go through each of those faces and how sort of social media in the world is like your perception of that, and then what you've gone through with your own family and friends, and then what you have only seen and your actual personal experiences. So to start off, right, obviously social media is a bit of a beast, and you're quite vocal on there sometimes, I'd say.
Do you know what? Yes, I am. I don't feel as vocal as I used to be.
You're not, no.
I think I've certainly mellowed in a number of different aspects of my life over the last 10-15 years. But yeah, social media, I feel, and I've actually spoke about this on other podcasts, there's a lot of things on social media that this isn't recent, that just upset me, just the way people portray themselves on social media and speak about not just themselves but other people. And I suppose with certain with certain things happening very recently, it's now been spoke about, and there are people now starting to say, I've had enough of it. It's enough is enough. The way we speak to people, the way we talk to people, the way we try and gain attention out there.
Yeah.
Maybe there's got to be a better way.
It's almost like a clickbait thing, isn't it?
Of course.
It's
of course,
ridiculous.
Of course.
And the thing you're talking about is Caroline Flack, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And it's again, but we go previous to that, and it'll be another. And those are the celebrities, people that we know about. You think about people that we don't know about, where this is happening day in, day out.
It is hard. I think with social media, and I'm not on Twitter that much. I'm on there, but I don't voice too much of an opinion on there. I'm not a big fan of it.
I mean, Twitter, you can almost get drawn into the debates and almost say things that you wouldn't say to people's face.
You wouldn't say anything. No, you wouldn't.
There's a barrier that you can almost now feel a little bit braver.
That's what the footballers say, don't they? Like with the if you've had a bad game, you'll get absolutely rinsed on Twitter.
Yeah.
And it's like you wouldn't, if you saw, I don't know, like Dele Alli walking through the street.
No.
Half the stuff he gets on Twitter, you wouldn't say that stuff to him. Like,
No,
not
absolutely.
you, but do you know what I mean? Like generally, anyone who's criticising any player,
Of course.
you just wouldn't do it. So I think there should be more governance on Twitter. Like you should have to put in like a proof of ID, or you have to put something in, because there's no accountability whatsoever. Like
No.
The amount of abuse the players get, and racial abuse that they've been getting recently as well, that's obviously shed more light on it.
Yeah, but I suppose it's important to also look at it from both sides, that there's a lot of negativity on Twitter especially, but there's also a hell of a lot of positivity when it's done in the right way.
In the right way, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just for example, when we spoke about this earlier, I put a tweet out today, just saying and I don't normally open up about my feelings like that, and I thought, do you know what? I'm so proud of where I am now. It's not just the likes, but people commenting saying thanks, like Kev, that's great, and that's lovely.
Yeah,
and that's what it should be.
Yeah, definitely.
But sometimes it isn't.
I think it's good for Twitter's especially good for when you're trying to raise awareness for certain things, and you're trying to raise money for charities and stuff like that, with like the Ice Bucket Challenge, and with like obviously we're trying to do Edie's Cake Smash at the moment to raise awareness for DIPG. So stuff like that is good for that side of things when it's used in the right way. When it isn't used in the right way, it can be it can be a horrible thing. And with people like keyboard warriors and all that sort of stuff, that's what they need to try and govern. That's the bit they need to try and sort out. But no, I saw your tweet and I in fact liked it.
You did like it, yeah.
I did like it.
You did like it, and
tweet.
it's just. I looked at my before I sent it. I actually looked at my last few tweets, and one of my last few tweets was, "Is any danger of Jed Wallace passing to one of our players tonight?" And I thought, do you know what? I'm the first person to dig someone out if they're having a go at someone on Twitter, and I thought, I'm guilty of it. Maybe I haven't directly directed it to them, but I'm guilty of it, and I think we all are guilty of it. And I thought, no, do you know what? It's time to put something a little bit more positive out there. I'd like to think I'm quite positive anyway, but it's just sometimes you got to think, what is it there for? What are you using it for? I choose now to use it for positivity rather than negativity.
The thing that gets me is on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Your tweets are going to be out there for forever, probably. For example, like your great grandkids will read your tweets, will look at your photos, will do all that. And to me, like all we've got of our grandparents is old photos, which are probably black and white, or they're not. There's none of their history as such, and no comments that they've made. There's no stupid mistakes they've made. So to me, I'm like, right, and I've had to go back through things and clear stuff out sometimes and gone, that was a bit of a stupid comment, or I can't have that photo on there. Do you know what I mean? Because you think when it comes to when my kids, so obviously for the listeners, I've got a daughter who's 7 and a boy who's 4. Now, when they get to those ages of 16, 17, 18, and they're looking back at old photos of us when we were 16, 17, 18, you'll think, Jesus.
Wish I looked like that.
But it's just like, it is a point where you can everyone's so reactive on social media. It's like, oh, what a prick, or he should have done that. It's like, you've made that comment. It's out there for the world to see. And now you need to look at, and then you think, if you don't want your kids or your grandkids seeing what you type in, all right, I'm looking at it a bit far down the line.
Yeah, of course.
The principle's there. If you don't want people that you love to see what you're doing on there, don't write it in the first place.
There was, do you know what? Going off the back of obviously my work that I do in women's football, and the abuse that some of them get, especially on Twitter, and I mean, some people find it really funny, and some of the stuff they say is really horrible, and someone put on there a little while ago, and this was during the Women's World Cup, and there'd been a corner, and she'd kicked it, and it'd completely gone off. And now for that, how many times would you see that happen in a male game? You've seen it for years, but they'll pick out one part, and someone's made a big joke of it, and someone's commented on it, which was brilliant, and they just said, what if you've got a daughter that one day wants to play football, yet you're taking the piss out of her for that? What would you do if that was your daughter? It's absolutely true.
It's true.
It's absolutely true. You wouldn't do it.
No, you wouldn't do it. And I think that's where people don't understand the repercussions of what they're saying, because that's how I try and look at everything. If my kids are going to look at me doing something stupid or not going to be proud of who I am, you don't want to do it, do you? No. It stops you. I use Instagram a lot more. I don't with Twitter. I sort of I'm on and off it. I sort of make a comment here and there. It's usually for sharing something or retweeting something or whatever. I don't do a lot on there.
Yeah,
I'm more vocal on Instagram.
The problem with Instagram is you can view it as how many likes does my photo get, how many views does my video get, when actually, depending on what kind of message you're trying to put out there, so if you're trying to raise awareness of mental health, it's not about the fact that 50 people have liked it, 50,000 people have liked it, 50,000 people have watched your video. If one person sees it and it helps them, then it's done its job.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the most important thing.
It is.
But we're trapped in this, well, how many likes can I get? And we do it, like me and my half Addy, we do it as a bit of a joke, like, 90 likes, you know, like, I'm
90? You get 90 likes? Christ, I need to post better stuff.
Back in the day, yeah. Not so much.
I remember you doing competitions on Twitter back in the day. Bloody hell.
I did wonder if that was going to come up.
Yeah, it did, yeah, it has.
And
it will stay in the edit. Right, so talking about social media and stuff, so I'm going to ask you a question. It might be a little bit of a personal one.
Go on.
Have you ever faked it?
Have I ever faked it?
Yeah.
I thought we were talking about social media.
Oh, we are.
Oh, right. Okay.
Oh, we are. I don't know why your mind's going to the gutter. By that, I mean, if there's been a time where you haven't felt your best, but then there's been a photo taken and you're like, painted smile and all the rest of it. Do you know what I mean?
I don't think that there's a moment specifically where I can say that picture I was feeling really down, so I put it up. But absolutely, certainly not now, but maybe when I was single, if I felt a bit down about myself or I was a bit unhappy with the way I looked, I would put a photo up to try and get some, maybe, I don't know if attention is the right word, because then it made you feel a little bit better. So rather than get my self-esteem raised internally, I'm going externally to get it. So I mean, I'll be very honest, can't pinpoint one photo where I go, actually, look at me, I'm smiling, but I was really down that day, or that was a really hard time. But I've certainly used that in the past to try and make myself feel better, which is
I think a lot of people do. A lot of people do, and I think you see a lot of the photos where they do Instagram versus reality and stuff like that. You can see what filters you can do on Instagram, and people always do it for that like and yeah, I don't think that's anything to be ashamed of at all. I think a lot of people have done that, and I've checked how many likes I've got on certain things, and do you know what I mean? But for me, where I've gone through old photos, if when you're going through and you get your yearly update or whatever, and you go on there, and I remember there was one where we were at a family event. Well, it was a carnival, and all the fact we were all there, like me, Shah, the kids, and like some friends and stuff. And I remember that day, I was just like, fucking hell, like. And it was when I'm like that, you're much quicker to snap. You're not like much quicker to get pissed off by a stupid comment that the wife makes, where she doesn't mean anything by it, but it's just like Jesus. So it was that one. There's one picture where I've got Isaac, my boy, on my shoulders, and we're watching the carnival like in local town and stuff. And that day, I just look at that picture and go, you were a knob that day. Do you know what I mean? You like that photo, like, everyone looks at that photo and go, fucking hell, yeah, what a great dad. I weren't a great dad in that day, I was a twat. It's just one of those days where, I just weren't feeling myself whatsoever, and I wasn't feeling, but
had anything particularly happened to you, just for whatever reason, it just went there. And that's my experience with a lot of that, is that I don't really feel like I've got a lot of control over it. Okay.
It's usually where I'm overwhelmed or whatever, and I get to that place, and the way I've explained it before, I don't know what it's like for other people, because obviously, like we've said, it's not something that you talk about very openly with a lot of people,
of course,
which is the main reason for doing this.
Yeah.
But for me, being in that mindset is quite comfortable.
Okay.
So, for example, like, it's not a good thing.
No.
It's not a good thing, but it's like when you're down, and you know that you need to, people like snap out of it is a terrible term. Man up's a terrible term. Yeah. But when it gets to that point where you go, right, need something now. Need to be able to get myself up again rather than, in this low place. But it is very easy to just stay angry. Like for example, if like I've had a falling out with a wife or something like that, it's much easier sometimes when I'm in that place to stay pissed off. Stay pissed off, stay angry. Like, you know, oh no, fuck you. We don't have that many blazing rows.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? It's like, it's one of those things. It's much easier to stay there sometimes and go, I'm sorry, I know I'm being a knob. Right? I'm not feeling great. I'm being a bit of a knob. I know. Give me a bit of time. I'll be all right again. So it is, from my experience, it is, yeah, it's quite comfortable. It's a dangerous way to explain it, but that's just my perception of it. Which is why when I do feel better, I do try and be more like, you know, because I think a lot of people would consider, that probably don't sound like now, but I think a lot of people would consider me quite happy-go-lucky, sort of, you know, like loud, happy, laughing. Yeah, I think a lot of the time I am like that. Quite a bit of the time I'm not. So I think when people do see me in that place, that's when it's like, fucking hell, man, like, come on. So
I can completely relate to that, and again, I think me and you are quite similar in that I'm quite like hot, not, I don't want to use hot. I certainly was when I was younger, quite high energy and try and be funny and try and be positive as much as I can.
Go for the crack, like go for the gag.
Whereas now when I have days when I don't feel like that, what I've got a lot better at is saying, I'm feeling a bit down today. I can't explain it. Don't know what it is. Don't know if I've had a long week at work. I don't know if I don't know. I just haven't eaten well for the last couple of days, so I'm feeling a bit. But years ago, I wouldn't do that. I would just expect people around me to put up with it. Whereas now I'm being a lot more open and I just feel a bit rubbish today. No, you've not done anything wrong. There's nothing wrong at all. I just feel a bit low today. And then eventually, for whatever reason, you know, you then something, you go out and then you feel a bit better, or it just naturally takes care of itself.
It subsides, it does. I mean, it is difficult. I mean, going back onto the point of with like Instagram and Twitter and social media and the world and everything else, in the mainstream, obviously you've mentioned about being in women's football. Did you see the campaign about Heads Up?
Yes.
From your experience working within football, is it something that's discussed often, or?
To be honest, no. Not nearly enough as what it should be. I mean, I work in women's football. I've done now for 7-8 years. Working in women's football is completely different to working in male football. And anyone who says different, in my opinion, has not had the experience of working in both games. So how you deal with different emotions is massive. And I got found out this very early on of working in women's football. I was working with 16, 17-year-old girls. Didn't really understand the best way to support them and help them, and ultimately really struggled early on. So the way that you may talk to the players and the different issues you might talk about are completely different. But in terms of speaking as mental health awareness, there isn't enough happening, in my opinion. Not certainly not at the lower levels and the grassroots levels. There can always be more, there can always be better support, but ultimately I think it first of all comes down to knowing who you're working with and trying to think of them as a person, not a player. That's the most important part. They don't want to be known as a player, they want to be known as a person, and what works for this person maybe doesn't work for that person, and how I speak to this player might be different to how I speak to that player. Or I can read their body language as soon as I walk in. They need an arm around the shoulder tonight. Or actually, do you know what? They just need to be left alone for a little bit. And it's how you read people more than anything.
I think that's management in general.
Absolutely.
That's nothing to do with sport, nothing to do with anything
Absolutely.
like that. It's all to do with management.
Absolutely.
It's just because the players are so highly documented and they're so popular and all the rest of it. You sort of hope that it does. Football it's quite difficult for football, but they almost have to lead the way in it. Do you know what I mean? Because it's up there, and a lot of young kids will look to those players. And they were saying as part of the campaign that, Premier League players, obviously, you know, they probably need some sort of help and all the rest of it. But it's the people lower down in the leagues that, say for example, you know, they're playing for a League 2 team, and then they retire, and it's like, what do I do now? That's at the point where people need more support probably than.
Yeah, I mean, you even look at someone like, coming away from football, look at someone like Ricky Hatton, who really struggled as soon as he come away from the limelight. So come away from that, you know, fans adoring you, attention, there's something always happening. Coming away from that, even almost to the boredom side of it, where none of that's happening anymore. He's someone who's really, really struggled with it, and he's not the first. He certainly won't be the last. So I think you're right in saying that. Does it have to be better at the top for it then to be filtered down, or does it start right from the bottom? It's hard to say.
It is hard. I mean, I don't know. I think the way that football are trying to do it with the Heads Up campaign and stuff like that, I think that it is at least shining a bit of a light on it, and it's starting a conversation, but like it needs to continue. Hence why we're doing stuff like this. And you know, talking about boxing, did you watch Tyson Fury's documentary? I haven't watched the second episode yet. I've watched the first one.
I've watched the first one. Yeah. I'd if you see his comeback and everything, and I mean, even after the first Wilder fight, just the you know, I did this for the people that are really struggling, and there is a way to get through it, and you can get through it, and again, it needs more people like that.
Yeah, it does.
It needs more people like that are trailblazers, that are showing the way of this is what support should look like. This is what, you know, go and get help, speak to someone. And like I say, when I said it right at the beginning, that we're talking about stuff that potentially we wouldn't have spoke about 5 years ago. It just needs more and more and more people to speak about it.
It does, because everyone's so worried about, you know, this Instagram world, this Twitter world, where you have to be popular, and it's like, no, you fucking don't. You do. Be you, and the rest will follow. Like, as long as you're true to yourself, the rest will follow. And I think where the conversation hasn't been there 5 years ago, hopefully we're starting it. I was having a conversation, we'll get on to the phase 2 in a minute, obviously still on phase 1, but I had a conversation with one of our close friends the other day, and about like this mental health stuff. He was checking in. How are you doing? Everything all right? I was like, yeah, no, I'm fine. He goes, are you really? And it's that question. Are you really? It's just that. It's like, thank you. Like, do you know what I mean? Thank you for checking. And I said to him, yeah, it's just one of those things I have to maintain and manage. And it's like if you've got a physical injury, you have to maintain it. I've got a dodgy knee at the moment because I ran too far too quickly and I've screwed my knee up. I have to maintain that. And mental health is the same as physical health. You have to maintain it. So I think it's just, with Tyson, you can see how fragile he is. And he talked about when he was going down the road at 185 mile an hour and he saw a bridge and he was going to crash into it, and you think, Christ. Like, that's, you know, you to be there, to be at that point. You think, oh, no.
But you are someone who I really respect and I've loved for years is Professor Green, or Pro Green he's known as, and he's do you know what, he's very ahead of his time in that he's been speaking about this for years, and one thing I'll always remember what he said, and I didn't really make sense at the time, it does now, is that you go to a gym to take care and maintain your body, but someone goes to speak to someone about their mental health and it's frowned upon, it's almost like looked at as a weakness, but it isn't.
No,
it isn't at all. It's the norm to go to the gym, but you go and speak to someone, or you even speak to your friends or whatever, and you say, look, I'm feeling a bit delicate, I feel a bit down, or I feel a bit overwhelmed at the minute, and I'm moving house and I've got so much to do and I'm meant to be an adult and I don't know what to do. It's okay to admit that. It's
okay.
Exactly.
Just going back to Twitter and Instagram, what's your description under your little, you know, when you get your name and you go,
what, like my little bio?
Yeah, your bio. What is your...
On Twitter?
Well, both. Okay. Or, I'm not bothered. Facebook doesn't.
So I believe I haven't got one for Instagram. I don't think. My Twitter is a little bit about what I do in football, what I'm currently doing qualification wise, because I'm doing my A license. I'm quite proud of the fact that I'm on that and doing that. Bang on about being a Millwall fan.
You're not a Millwall fan, yeah?
Did you not know?
No, never knew.
Don't go on about it enough. All views are my own, and then I believe I've got in there my quote to live by,
which is
tough times don't last, tough people do.
I like that. I haven't noticed
and
that.
And that's not please don't think that's a dig at anyone and me saying, oh, that because you're having a hard time you're not tough.
No, it's not. It's about getting through those tough times and then being stronger on the other side.
You're tougher because you've gone through it. Yeah, because this is what I thought about earlier as well, again following on from this sort of on a tangent, is that people use the phrase, when I was mentally at my weakness. You're not at your weakness, you're at your strongest because you're dealing with this stuff that you're going through. So that's just something that's resonated with me. Ali, my other half, she's got it like printed up, like, and I've got it out on show there, because there's just certain things I've gone through in the last 4 or 5 years before we talk about my backup that have been really horrible, rubbish times that everyone goes through.
Yeah, of course.
But I drew strength from it, and it's helped me get to hopefully where I'm heading to. Fantastic. In the future. Fingers crossed. Yeah. Who's this guy?
Anyone seen Kev?
That was good for you. That was very good.
That was phase 1. So with phase 1, we go through the world and social media. Phase 2 is more about your family unit and your friends and stuff like that. So we've been friends for a long time, and obviously within our friendship group, same group for the last sort of 15 years, I suppose.
Yeah.
If we include
Since left school.
Yeah, basically.
And through school, since leaving school, and obviously we'll go on and on.
On and on. As a group of 7 lads. It's not something you talk about in the pub necessarily, is it?
No, but I do think that one day that will change. I do. I just think it's where we are at as a society, if you want to use that word. And like you said, our group of friends are so supportive, and just by them maybe not having that conversation with us is not that they're not supportive. It's maybe they do find it hard. Maybe it's to ask that of someone who's not had to do it before and doesn't feel comfortable with it.
Yeah,
it's very hard.
It is very hard.
It is very hard, and that's nothing against them. But yeah, we've got we've got such a good close group of friends that if we needed them at any moment, they would be there for us. But the support that you might need at some point that might be a bit beyond their reach, is that the right way to word it? Do you see where I'm coming from?
Yeah, definitely.
See where I'm coming from? Like, there's different mates we would go to over certain things.
Yeah, I agree with that, definitely. And I think they certainly would as well. There'd be certain people that want to go to other people because they're more comfortable talking about those sort of things.
Yeah.
So in our friendship group, as you've alluded to, you're a Millwall fan. We've got a few in the group, obviously. We've got, people support a lot of different teams. I've seemed to have supported most of them. I won't lie. I'll tell you what, I've had a think about this, and I wanted to talk to you about it because
you like supporting a winning team.
Well, it won't be Millwall at the moment,
no, exactly.
And 1 in 6. But no, I think what that honestly stems from, right? So I grew up, like when my stepdad came along, he was a Man United fan. So I followed what he supported. My dad's like my don't want to call him my real dad, but my real dad, I suppose. He weren't into football. My grandpa was. My grandpa, his dad was into football. He was a Spurs fan,
right?
But he, he wasn't avidly into it. And then mum's side of the family were pretty much West Ham and Spurs sort of split. But when my stepdad came along, he was the first person who was actually really into football, and that's why I got into it. So I was a Man United fan.
Yeah.
So when I was a Man United fan, obviously I supported my local team, which is Chelmsford City, because we'd go down there to New Riddle Street and watch the games there. Eventually New Lodge, Billericay, when we were sharing the ground there.
Some good days out there.
Very good days. Blazing Squad we were called, weren't we? But yeah, they were like really good days. But I tell you the reason why. I think when I was in primary school, I used to get taken the piss out of so much. Not for supporting Chelmsford, but for supporting United.
Right.
Like always used to get taken the piss out of for it.
Right.
So, and then when I went to senior school... It was like a piss take because I was a United fan, but it weren't because they were winning and they were obviously successful in that period when we were at school. It was just because my stepdad had come along and he was a United fan, and I thought, well, I'll copy him because he's my dad. And do you know what I mean? So that's why, obviously, I've gone a lot to Millwall with you. I've gone to West Ham loads of times. I've gone to Spurs a fair few times when I was growing up with my cousin and with like family and stuff as well. So I've sort of floated. And I think that now I've got a bit of a reputation for being a bit of a floozy, really, for supporting very, very many different teams. I think we can add to the list Guernsey FC, Real Oviedo are in there. There was
Guernsey at one point,
There was Guernsey. But the reason why there was Guernsey is because my dad's side of the family are from Guernsey, and they were going up there in the non-league sort of pyramid,
right,
working their way up, and they're in the playoffs. So that's why I was sort of like, go on, Guernsey. And everyone's like, bloody hell, that's another one, isn't it?
Didn't you buy shares in a club at one point?
Yeah, that was Real Oviedo. They're in the Division 2 of the Spanish League.
Oh,
but that was like a crowdfunding thing, and loads of people bought shares into it.
Right.
And then you don't get anything out of it. I couldn't sell my shares and make any money back.
Yeah.
And it was sort of one of those things that other clubs in this country have done it, where they've gone into administration, they're trying to raise money and stuff like that. So they've done that.
Yeah.
I think you could buy shares in Salford at one stage, but obviously they don't need any more money. So there's lots of different places that do that, and they probably should have looked at doing that for Bury and do you know what I mean? Like teams that could have actually done with it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, Stevenage were doing it. Stevenage were doing it, and it's like it makes you want to be a part of something. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's why. I think Oh God, this is getting deep. I think that's the main thing about life is everyone wants to feel part of something, and that's why football is such a big thing for a lot of people, because you want to be part of something. Like you want to be part of Millwall, you want to go down there and be a part of like everything. Not everything that's going on there, but most of the things that are going on there.
I love being part of it, and I love our reputation of being a hard working class, and I. Even now, with my girls that I coach, and even though we're not Millwall and we actually play against Millwall, the things that are expected there, and I've grown up watching, I absolutely instill within my players, because I want that. I want them to be brave. I want them to work hard. I want them to outwork the opposition, and that's things that I've grown up with. But also, it's not just football skills; it's life skills and being better people skills, and that's what I've taken from that and put into.
Do you think that's from that or from your dad?
Both, absolutely, because I've said it quite. I don't say enough. I respect the hell out of my dad and how hard he's worked, and he's gone through his stuff as well. So we're talking about this, and believe me, he's gone through his stuff, and seeing my dad go through it was very hard, because you always look at your dad as someone who's invincible and would never. And seeing that happen to him really hit me hard for a number of years, because I wasn't used to seeing it.
How long ago was that?
This was about. So how old was I? I was about 2021, so just over 10 years ago. We went, and it was off the back, believe it or not, it was actually off the back of the housing crisis. So like the market obviously failing, and dad worked directly in it, and that led to money problems, and then his own issues with it. But now I look at my dad and where he is and how he's massively bounced back. That's what and now I'm older, I respect that bit of it more, because like I say, 10 years ago I looked at him, and I don't want to use the word disappointed, because it wasn't, but I felt a bit, I don't know, I can't think of what word I'm looking for, but this man that you've always looked at as being invincible, who could take care of anything, and if anything ever went wrong,
you probably realised he was a normal bloke.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Rather than a superhero. And I think that's what, all of it. I mean, like I've mentioned, I'm a dad of two, and you want to be that hero, and you want to be the guy who can save him from anything and all the rest of it. You can't be. You can't be. You can be the best person, the best dad, the best uncle, the best whatever you can possibly be. That has to be enough. You can't, like I said, like with my with my dad, my stepdad, I respect them both immensely, but they're just doing the best they possibly can. My mum's just doing the best she possibly could. Their parents done the best they possibly could. So it isn't, I understand completely where you're coming from, but it is about that point of realising when they're just, normal.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, it is. And my kids know I'm normal. Trust me.
And it's as you get older, they then tell you the stories, and you think back to, wow, I didn't realise that happened. He told me one story about where it was to do with work, and he'd signed something really big, and it fell through at the last minute, and I remember it happening, but I don't remember because I didn't see it, because he would have hidden it from me. But his reaction and how down it made him, and how worried and anxious it made him, because all of a sudden you've now got these money problems. He was protecting us from that. Yeah. But you don't realise that at the time.
No, of course you don't. Obviously, me and Charlotte have been together 10 years now, and there's still sometimes I can't tell her things, which is nothing on her. Nothing on her. She's very supportive and all the rest of it, but she knows now when I'm just feeling a bit crap, and she knows to give me that bit of space, give me a hug or whatever, let me know I'm she's there for me and stuff like that, which is that's all I need in that moment. But it's having that support network around you, and like where our parents are part of that generation where it's stiff upper lip and all that crap. That's why it's hard. And just for the record, I'm a Man United fan and a Chelmsford City fan.
Is that where you're at now?
That's like trying to be as fine as it.
Ironic that they won at the weekend.
Yeah, they both won. United beat Watford, and actually no, Chelmsford lost again. They're playing Chelmsford. Yeah. Well, they sack a manager without a backup plan. It's not going to go very well, is it? No. But they're playing tonight, so I haven't checked the score yet.
Do they need me to go in and sort it out? Or?
Oh, mate, I'd love that. I'd actually go and start watching them again. So we've discussed phase 1, which was the world and social media. Phase 2 is family and friends, and phase 3 is true self. So the part of you that only you see, Ali sees. The actual what you go through.
Okay.
So as you've said about previously, is obviously you've had your back surgery, which has obviously helped because you weren't feeling great prior to that.
No.
Bit of an understatement, I know. But I'll let you sort of divulge.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, I'm 4.5 weeks out of having quite a serious back operation in that I didn't just have a slipped disc. I had a cyst that was growing on my nerve root. So I had constant sciatica, and I'd had that for over 4 months.
Wow.
Just a constant pain, very, very heavy painkillers to bring the pain down just a tiny bit. But yeah, I mean, I was dealing with that for 4 months and still working, still doing football, still trying to complete my A license at the same time. So yeah, I'm 4.5 weeks off, or 4.5 weeks out of surgery, and in a lot better frame of mind than I was beforehand. A lot better.
Yeah.
I really struggled, and I've no issues admitting it. I've had some very dark times over the last 4 months. If it hadn't have been for family around me, if it hadn't have been for my friends, if it hadn't have been for my other half Ali, I generally don't know, and I know this sounds awful to say, I generally don't know what I would have done, because there was, like I say, some very, very dark times, and it was obviously the fact of being in chronic pain, and the worst of it was not knowing when it was going to end.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until just after Christmas that I got my operation date, so you knew when you were working to. But there was a lot of times when, one, I didn't know what it was, how long it was going to be, and if it was serious. I went into my meeting with the surgeon, and I generally didn't know if he was going to turn around and say, yeah, we can fix this, or there's nothing we can do. He openly said before the surgery, like they have to, there is a chance that we could paralyse you. And going through that fear, the mixture of emotions, it was just a horrible...
Anything to do on the spine, isn't it? They're like, even when Charlotte had... when Charlotte had Eva and they were giving her an epidural, even then you have to sign like a disclaimer of, you know, you're taking a risk here.
Of course, yeah.
But no, I don't, with that, this is the reason why I wanted to do this with you for the first episode, because I didn't have a clue. You've been one of my best mates for 20 years. Didn't have a clue. I knew you were going through a bit of stuff and stuff like that, and it wasn't, and I can't even say I put 2 and 2 together. But I remember when me and Ash, like, very good friend of both of ours, were sitting in local pub, just having a couple of drinks and stuff, and then he got a phone call from you, and he walked off, and I was like, oh, that's a bit odd. Didn't think anything of it, just continued. I think we were watching the football or whatever, and then he came back, and I was like, everything all right? I was like, who was that? He was like, oh, it's Kev. I said, oh, is he all right? He goes, yeah, he's all right. I was like, is he? Like, the way you've said that, it's like, he's not all right. Like, I want to, do you know what I mean? Like, are you sure?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a bit personal. Like, don't, like, just leave it. I was like, all right, okay, fine. Yeah. And then I left it, and I'm pretty sure, I honestly can't remember if I texted you or I didn't text you. But if I didn't text you, I'm sorry.
You did. No, you did.
I did.
No, you
okay.
did. Yeah, you did.
I did text you, and I was like, just want to make sure everything's all right, because I didn't want, because Ash didn't tell me anything. Obviously, he said not to say anything. He didn't say anything. But at that point, which it must have been, I don't know, like October.
Yeah,
I
October.
guess.
Yeah, it was October.
And it was like, and you phoned it, and it was like at that point where you had no idea what it was, and you didn't know if it. Yeah. So I was like,
yeah. I'd literally just walked out. It was actually the day before I'd walked out, because originally I went to the chiropractor to try and get them to click me back into place. They sent me for an MRI, and it was when it was basically showing up this lump, which they said it could be a tumour. Obviously, it was a cyst, and they knew it was a cyst after then doing the advanced one. But there was a few days where I didn't know, and although it was unlikely, it's still a possibility.
Of course it is. Of course, anything like that just lifts the scares the shit out of you.
Yeah, of course it does. Of course it does.
So no, I mean that's why I wanted to talk to you about all this, because especially being on like the first one of these I've done as well, because you have been through it, and my point about this whole point of the podcast is where we've been, like, you know, best mates for, like, all of us for like 20 years and stuff, especially over the past 15 years, and you go, didn't have a clue. So just literally like the text I got from one of our friends the other day, are you okay? Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah, but are you really okay? Yeah. It's just that bit. That's all I needed to do. That's all I needed to do. At that point, we'll go, Kev, come on. What's going on? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And I didn't do that. And then when we went out, when was it? It was like January, wasn't it?
For the Christmas do?
Yeah, it was a delayed Christmas do, though, wasn't it? It weren't before Christmas. It weren't before
Yeah,
Christmas.
it was Christmas. Yeah,
Was
it
it?
was before Christmas. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was before Christmas.
And you hadn't had your date through then, had you?
No.
So that's when you mentioned it then, and I was like, Jesus, mate, I'm so sorry, because I was so in that time as well. I was so wrapped up in my own shit, and I remember talking to you. What club were we in, Chelmsford? It was Old Edwards, wasn't it?
Oh, Pop, I don't know if I want to say this on it might.
I think it was Popwell. I remember standing there chatting to you guys about what I was going through, and I was like, there were times where I didn't want to be here.
Yeah.
And Jace was like, I'm just naming all our friends on this podcast, by the way. So friends, if you got a problem with it, let me know, because it's going to go out. But yeah, like I remember him going, hell, Matt, like, why didn't you say anything? Like with Chris, and I'm going to call him Chris for the case of this. We don't call him Chris usually, but I'm not going to proper name him. He's just called Chris. But yeah, he was like sitting there and chatting about it, and he was like, bloody hell, like, what the fuck? So that moment of seeing the helplessness on their face, going, why didn't you say something? Yeah. I saw the flip side of that 2 months later, having the same conversation with you. Yeah. When you were going through it, I was like, mate, of all people, I feel like I should have seen the signs, and I didn't have a clue.
I completely understand where you're saying from. The hard thing is that we, as a group, don't see each other as much as one, I'd like, and two, we should. Because we'll look back one day and we'll go, why didn't we just do that or try and do that? And I get it, and I'm in a completely different situation to you guys in that I don't have a family yet, and I haven't got those constraints, if that makes I don't mean that in a horrible way at all.
No, they're a constraint.
I don't mean that in a horrible way at all, but Mark can't, for example, Mark, do you fancy going to get a bit of dinner tonight? Yeah, there's stuff you have to do, you have to check, and I completely understand that. Perhaps if we were seeing each other like all once a week, we did like a pub night on a Wednesday, for example.
Which, funnily, ironically, we used to do when we had no responsibilities.
Exactly. It's mad, isn't it? It's absolutely mad. But perhaps that would have been, but it's, I don't know, I try to take a lot of it on myself, and like I say, Ali was brilliant and had to put up with a lot of shit moods from me. A lot. And I am the most positive person in the world. But she had to deal with a lot of, I've had enough of this. It's never going to get better. I can't do it anymore. Blah blah blah. So, it's. Let's just say I'm so much happier this side of it, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone.
No.
But I suppose not everyone's going to go through what I went through, but people are going to go through hard times. It does get better.
It does, and it's
such a cliche. It's such a cliche, but it does.
It does get better, but you were very lucky to have Ali.
Yeah, 100%.
Do you know what I mean? And it's like, and if you've got those people, it is important to have those people around you and to talk to those people around you. And where I'm guilty of it. I'm not very good at talking about it in general, and this is why I'm sort of using this as a bit of a healing thing. I think, to be quite honest. But where it comes down to like trying to. The thing is, like, when you are wrapped up in normal life, so for example, obviously, with Charlotte and the kids and all the rest of it, and you like, fucking haven't put the dishwasher on, or you haven't done that, and you haven't done this, or she hasn't done something I've expected her to do, or whatever, and you just end up snapping at each other over stupid shit. But really, she does. Sometimes she gets it more now, but she wouldn't understand necessarily that I was going through a bit of a shit day or shit time, or I didn't want to talk about it or whatever. I should turn around to her and go, little code word, something like that. Do you know what I mean? Little code word of, I'm feeling shit. It's nothing to do with you, but I'm feeling a bit crap. Yeah. Because she's stubborn as, right? And so am I.
Is she going to listen to this podcast?
She'll listen to this because she's doing all of the pictures for it and helping me do, certain parts in it. Yeah. But she'll agree. She'll 100% agree. She is stubborn, right? And so am I. So when I'm down, I get more stubborn, and she's started to see that if I'm in that place, it's probably not a good idea for her to be stubborn, because we just won't talk to each other for like 3 days. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's almost like a battle of wills, of I'm not breaking first. But that's where I go back to the fact where it's quite dangerously comfortable in that place where you are feeling crap and you don't want to talk to anyone and the world's against you and fuck everything and because it's like, well, all I have to do is rate, like they call from. I don't want to get too into like spiritual side of things, but that helps me a lot with being like, I'm quiet with, especially like my dad's sort of quite spiritual. I try to be. I think everything, like I try and see everything that happens for a reason, all that sort of stuff. It's very difficult to do that all the time. It really is, but that's what I try to do. And there's little things where I've gone like on this, which even just arranging this, and I'm like, right, if I'm meant to do it, it will happen. And if I'm meant to, you know, so for example, these pop shields, the mic cover things that I'm pointing at that no one can actually see apart from you, they got delivered at 4:00 today.
Oh wow.
And without those, I wouldn't have been too comfortable doing this. And I was like, little things like, I know it's only saying little, but it's like, bloody hell, like that worked perfectly. So surely I'm supposed to do this. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I have to look at things in that way. But when I'm feeling down and crap and whatever, it's very difficult to get out of, though. They call it like, when you're in depression, it's like very low vibrational energy field. And when you're in like a really high space where you're in like really inspired and you're doing things, and like when you're doing your football, you're probably at your highest level of like being inspired and like, right, you know, you're in your zone. When you're not in your zone, you're down in lower frequencies. That's, you know, high frequency, low frequency. So when you're hovering down in the low frequencies and stuff, it is like dangerously comfortable just to stay there. But I know when I've had stuff where I've been like a bit of a dickhead at home or whatever, I know it's just a case of, right, I just need to raise my game a little bit. Like, I don't know, it's just try and not snap out of it, because you can't, it isn't just that
kind
easy.
of like a coping mechanism of such. Do you mean?
Yeah, just try and work through those feelings, accept that they're there, go, right, I'm feeling crap today, how do I work through it? And you just like, even literally just go, look, it's not to do with you, I'm feeling shit today, like, please don't take it personally, I'll get over it. That you've already started to get higher on that energy level of like, or frequency level, whatever you want to call it, of, right, I was down here feeling crap, now I've admitted I feel crap. You've actually taken a step up. So now, you know, you start to work your way, start coping, start getting higher up on that sort of level, and it does help just by talking. So with Ali, where you've gone through your stuff and you go, having a shit day today, she'll know to either give you, like you said earlier, arm around the shoulder, or cuddle, obviously you're together, or leave you alone. It's that, it's having that person next to you. And I think it is important for people that are listening and are struggling, you just find someone to talk to. And if you feel like you have no one to talk to, there's always someone to talk to. If it gets to, I mean, for example, when I was feeling crap last year, I went and saw Motivated Minds in Basildon. They're a charity, they're sort of the CIC is like a charity, and they help people with mindfulness and mental health issues and whatever. But they're just, literally, they're in Eastgate Shopping Centre. You walk in, you have a coffee, you chat to someone. It's just something just to help. Do you know what I mean? Just to talk to someone. And there's lots of groups like that. It hasn't got to be them necessarily. There's lots of different people. And if you're really struggling, obviously you've got Samaritans and stuff like that, where people are there 24/7 to speak to you. So it's very important to find that person, and it might even be a good idea to have a little code word with someone that you trust to say, feeling a bit shit today. Do you know what I mean? Like, it does help.
The big one for me, I have two things. It sounds really silly. First one is obviously exercise, but that's just something I have to do. Ironically, I've actually not done it for 4 or 5 months because of this back issue, and I do feel myself like full of testosterone. I have to get rid of it, and if I don't get rid of it, it does make me feel down. But I have to work out. The second thing, and it just is something that helps me, I have to do some sort of clean or organise. Because
what I was actually going to ask you, right? Part of this, right? So we've done the first phase. We've done the second phase, and the third phase, obviously, we're talking about now. One of my notes in this is there three, bearing in mind it's 3 Faces podcast, you know, there's sort of 3 chapters to the story. What 3 things help you during, sort of, to help your mental health, basically?
So the first thing is definitely exercise. It some sort of just, it can be something I usually do, or if I just fancy going in and doing something slightly different, like a little bit of boxing, or exercise is the main thing for me. I feel completely different after exercise. It's just something that really helps. The second thing is, again, it's just a lot of when I feel down, it's because I'm overwhelmed with the amount of stuff I've got to do. So like, I've got to reply to my solicitor about the house move. I've got to do that for work today. I've got football tonight. I've got to get from there. But then tomorrow I'm up at 5:30 because I've got to go to London. I just have to have some sort of organised, whether it's just cleaning the kitchen, whether it's just sorting and tidying. I have to do some sort of like organisational task.
Writing a list helps, I find.
Oh, massive. That would be included in there.
Writing
Absolutely.
a list certainly helps, especially work-wise.
And even if I've done it already, I'll still write it on there so I can cross it off because it just makes me feel better.
Success.
Yes. The third thing is I will go and do something different to what I would normally do, because I think a lot of times you can feel down can be linked to like monotony, just the same thing the day, like what am I living for, like what is doing the same thing over and over again. Go and do something different, like go even if it's go to a different cinema, go to eat somewhere different, just something just to add a little bit more variety in. So I'd say those are my three things, most definitely.
It's funny you should mention that last thing. When I went and saw Motivated Minds last year, they said to me, what is it you love doing? And I was like, I don't know, like I've got my wife and kids and, I've got good friends and all that. She goes, no, but when you were growing up, what was your passion? What did you love doing? And I was like, I don't know, like I used to do a bit of go-karting. I used to quite enjoy that. I got my racing license. I used to love that. I never followed through with it, but she goes, why don't you arrange with you and your mates to go karting or whatever? Like go and do something that you love doing and you enjoy doing, and do something that actually brings you joy, rather than just the monotony of what you said of everyday life of trying to get up, daily grind, get home, And I love my wife and kids very, very much. But trying to get them to bed on time every night is it's a struggle sometimes. So just to do something that brings you pure joy that you really enjoy doing. So for example, obviously you get away, go to Millwall and stuff like that. Obviously you said sometimes when you're walking away from the ground doesn't feel like that, but it's a nice escape, and it isn't that thing that brings you joy. I think that's very important.
Yeah, I'm very lucky in that my evening job that I do is my hobby as well.
Yeah.
So even if I didn't get paid for it and it wasn't a job, I would still do it anyway because I absolutely adore it and I love it. So I'm lucky in that respect. But I've been doing it 7 years. I don't get bored from it. But even occasionally, I think I've got training again tonight.
Yeah, I know. But once you get there,
I love it. Yeah, absolutely. So, but I just think it's important to, and also to have things to look forward to, because you when you're, and especially again, I'm in a completely different situation to you. But if I take mine and Ali's situation in that we're looking for houses, so everything we do at the moment, we talk about houses. Oh, what about that house? What about that house? Actually, let's have a weekend where we don't talk about houses, but we go and do something like. So I've booked us to go to the theatre Monday because we're in London, staying at hers next week. We've booked New York in November, so something a little bit further.
I did see something about that pop up, yeah.
Yeah, so something a little bit more long term, but then what have we got? Because New York's a long way away, so what have we got in the meantime? Because if you're not doing those things with your money that you're going out to, that you're earning, that you're going out to earn.
There he is.
He's
just found the mic.
I'd end up in the living room in a minute. Honestly, I'm so active. It's just so.
He's climbing the walls.
Worse than Tony Blair used to be when you give it that.
It's not a political show, but
I just think you have to reward yourself, even if it's I'm going out shopping today and getting some new clothes. You have to, or what's the point? What is the point? I mean that.
It is good to look forward to stuff. I mean, we've got Hopton booked, so that
What's Hopton? Is that?
It's like Haven holiday sort of thing. Oh, I know, yeah, with the purses, in fact. So that'd be nice.
That'd be good.
So I agree. You do need things to look forward to. You do need to get away from the general sort of away from life. I think anything that you can do to sort of give you a bit of joy, it does help. So very good advice. Well, they're the three things you do. What would be your sort of? Let's wrap it up a little bit. We're going back to obviously your experiences with mental health. What would be your final thought or your bit of advice to anyone that's listening who's in a bit of a time of it?
Nothing lasts forever. Nothing is constant. It does change. You do feel better, and it's okay to be a bit down sometimes. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you.
Exactly, I agree. A phrase that my dad uses is "this too shall pass," and I think he's nicked that from like a philosopher. But this too shall pass is something that he has said to me quite often when I've had a bit of downtime. Right, so that was our first episode of Three Faces podcast. Obviously, first guest Kev Baker. Thank you very much, Kev, for being part of the first podcast.
My pleasure and honour to have been the first guest.
You are always first on the list, mate. I mean, I won't tell everyone that, but that was you very, very much were first on my list. In fact, I sent you that text message about 3 weeks ago saying, really want to do this. So I very much appreciate you coming on and being very open and honest, and I'll be forever grateful. So thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And there we have it. Thank you again, Kev, for being my first guest on the Three Faces podcast. And thank you very much for listening. If you'd like to get in touch with the podcast, to share your stories or to get involved in any way, you can do by emailing us at threefacespodcast@gmail.com. You can also find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Matt Werry. And if you'd like any more information, you can go to my website, which is mattwerry.co.uk. I'll be back next time on the Three Faces podcast. Thank you again for listening. Take care of yourselves and remember to be kind, and it's okay not to be okay. Thank you very much, and God bless.